Hi guys, welcome back to my read long channel. Happy New Year. Let's start with that one. I hope you all had a really lovely Christmas and have settled back into your routines. I went back yesterday, so a bit of a shock to the system, but I'm enjoying being back in the routine and I absolutely love my job. So as tired as I am, it's quite a nice feeling. We'll see how we feel after half term. But let's keep going. So I've started on David Walliams Spaceboy. I bought this from my partner a couple of weeks ago. Actually, a couple of months ago. and I haven't read it yet, but my partner has, and I've read loads of David Walliams. So this is apparently really good, but there's lots going on. So without further ado, this is David Walliams Spaceboy. It's all David Walliams' own work. I'm just reading it for entertainment or pleasure. So let's get going, guys. We'll see how we get on. So the first bit opens up to thank yous, and it's got all of the people that David Walliams has thanked for helping with this novel. And then it's got a little bit about something that I'm about to read. Okay, so let's get going. In the 1960s, the world was gripped by the space race. This time it was when the two superpowers of America and Russia battled to be first. First to launch a space rocket, first to orbit the Earth, first to send a dog into space, first to send a man into space, first to land a man on the moon. The prize was monumental, to take control of space itself. Our story is set in the early years of that decade in a dusty old farm town in the Midwest of America, a place where nothing ever happens, that is, until the adventure of a lifetime begins. And then it's got a meet the characters in this story section, beautiful illustrations. So obviously each of these characters come with a description and a picture of them, but let's get reading with that bit. So Ruth. Ruth is a 12-year-old orphan who is obsessed with outer space. She stays up all night to watch the stars from her tiny attic room in her aunt's farmhouse. Yuri. Yuri is Ruth's little three-legged dog. She found him lying in the road, not far from the farmhouse. Ruth names her pet after her hero, the Russian cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin. Gagarin had just become world famous as the very first human in space. Aunt Dorothy. Aunt Dorothy had lived alone on her dusty old ostrich farm until the night of her distant relative Ruth turned up on her doorstep. Reluctantly, Aunt Dorothy took the orphan in, but put her straight to work on the farm. Aunt Dorothy looks like a crocodile and snaps like one too. The sheriff. The donut-loving sheriff has spent his career in the police force, longing for drama. However, in this tiny town in the American Midwest, the most thrilling emergency calls he receives are for a cat stuck up a tree, a stolen bucket, or a missing shoe. All that is about to change with the arrival of a creature from another world. And then we've got the president. The President of the United States of America might be the most powerful person on the planet, guarded day and night by Secret Service agents. But he is a silly little man. He is incredibly vain with a deep tan and ridiculous ginger toupee. All the President cares about is himself, so when an alien lands on Earth, he wants to make it all about him. Then we've got Major Majors. This tall, broad man has the good looks of an aging movie star. He is the most decorated soldier in US military history and has been made the top dog of America's top secret base. This is where the sky monitored for the UFOs, unidentified flying objects. The top secret base is hidden deep underground in the desert. The place is so secret that nobody knows it even exists. That is except the President and Major Majors, of course. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to find his way to work in the morning. Dr. Shock. Dr. Shock is a half man, half machine. The genius scientist worked for the Germans during the Second World War. Then he was all man, no machine. But one night he blew himself up when designing an epic rocket. 20 years later, Dr. Shock is in charge of the failing American space program, where he barks orders at boffins. The Boffins. The Boffins work at NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. The special space boffins are the boffinest boffins in the whole history of boffindom. And finally, Spaceboy. A mysterious figure in a shiny silver spacesuit, boots, gloves, cape, and a mirrored helmet. Spaceboy speaks in a spooky voice. his face completely hidden behind his helmet. And then they've got a map of America. So obviously it's a drawing. I'll just read out the labels. They've got the top secret base. Please don't tell anyone where it is. Aunt Dorothy's farm, the White House, Washington, NASA Space Center at Cape Canaveral. And then there is Aunt Dorothy's farm. Again, there is a picture. I will read out the labels. So top says cow and bull, grazing land, ostrich pen, garage, pigsty, wheat fields, farmhouse, chicken coop, and a garage. Okay, so then we've got part 1, Life on Mars. So I'm going to try and read it chapter by chapter. I might only get time for one chapter today. We'll see how we get on. Okay, chapter 1 is called Dreaming. A light blazed across the night sky from her attic room at the top of the wonky farmhouse she called home. A girl named Ruth took her eye away from her telescope. She rubbed her grubby little eye with a grubby little finger. Surely she was dreaming. No, there really was something up there, spinning at a terrific speed with a streak of flames flowing from it. Whatever it was on fire. Whoosh! Could it be an aeroplane? No, aeroplanes didn't spin like that. Could it be a helicopter? No, it was travelling way too fast to be a helicopter. Could it be a shooting star? No, it was flying too low to be a shooting star. It was a UFO, an unidentified flying object. What's more, it was coming down fast, about to crash land on Earth. This was the most thrilling moment of Ruth's little life. The poor girl was an orphan. Her family were dirt poor, and her mother and father had died digging for gold. They had wanted a better life for their darling daughter, but were killed when the mine where they were working caved in. It was a grisly end. They had been buried alive. Before that, they moved from state to state all their lives looking for work. They'd slept in the back of the father's old pickup truck. Ruth would lie there, snuggled between her mother and father for warmth. She had nothing, but she had everything, because she had their love. The little girl would fall asleep gazing at the stars. Now all Ruth had left of her beloved parents were memories, the softness of her mother's kisses, that special smile her father saved just for her. The truck was sold to pay for the funerals, and Ruth was dispatched to her only living relative with a sign round her neck that read, "Please look after this orphan." After travelling for days, most of it on foot, Ruth finally arrived one stormy night at Aunt Dorothy's doorstep. The pair had never set eyes on each other before. The old lady had never had children of her own for one very good reason. She loathed them. For Aunt Dorothy, all children were revolting creatures with filthy hands and snotty noses, unruly bottoms. Aunt Dorothy's only use for the child was to put her to work in the ostrich farm, so Ruth was forced to spend her days mucking out the ostriches before being given the longest list of chores to complete in the farmhouse at night. Ruth's to-do list by Aunt Dorothy: mop the floor, scrub the toilet, pluck my hairs out of my toothbrush, dust the farmhouse from top to bottom, unblock the drain, repair the roof, wash my socks, sweep the chimney, brush away the cobwebs. Finally, as a special treat, cut your beloved aunt's toenails. Ew. Ruth's life was bleak. She didn't go to school. She didn't have any friends. She didn't have a future. All she had were her dreams. Every night after she had finally finished her chores, Ruth would trudge all the way up to the wonky staircase to her tiny attic room. She would slump down on her creaky bed, and her thoughts would turn her to her mother and father. How different life would be if they were still here. Desperately, Ruth would try to keep them alive in her mind. She'd flash through all her memories of them, like turning the pages of a photograph album. Not that she had a photograph of them. They were too poor for that. Ruth's clever little three-legged dog, Yuri, could always sense that when she was sad. She would take a running jump onto the bed and then nuzzle up to her. "Ruff! I love you, little Yuri," Ruth would whisper as she tickled him behind his ears. "You are all I have." Ruth was lucky to have him, and Yuri was lucky to have her. She had found the poor thing lying in the road, not far from the farmhouse. Some brute must have run the puppy over, crushing his leg under the wheel of their truck, then sped off, leaving him for dead. On seeing him that first time, Ruth had instantly scooped up the poor pup into her arms and taken him back to the farmhouse. Against all odds, she'd nursed him back to health. The dogs leapt back, they couldn't be saved, so Ruth made him a new one from a battered old egg whisk and a leather belt. With that strapped in place, it was easier for him to follow Ruth around the farm while she did her chores. Not knowing if the dog had already been given a name or not, Ruth chose one for him, Yuri. Ruth named him the dog after her hero, the handsome Russian cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin. Gagarin had just made the headlines around the world for being the first human in space. It was the story of the century. Ruth had rescued all the old newspaper magazine front pages of his space flight in the Russian rocket Vostok 1 from Aunt Dorothy's bin. Then she struck them up all over the bare walls of her attic. There were pictures of Gagarin in space, pictures of him landing safely back on Earth, even a picture of him receiving a special medal, Russia's highest honor for his incredible bravery. Handily, the pages covered all the stains, cracks, and crumbled plaster, while also creating the perfect shrine to her hero. What an adventure to be him, she thought, whizzing round planet Earth while I wrestled with my aunt's toenails. Ruth's life was as far from adventure as was imaginable until tonight. And we are going to stop there. Thank you so much for listening. Happy New Year again. The next chapter will be The Dark Curtain, chapter 2, but I'm going to have to leave it there for tonight. Thank you so much for listening. Happy New Year. Until the next time, guys. Bye.